and welcome to the Craft Beer Corner. For today's beer review, we're jumping into a beer from Urban Artifact Brewing out of Cincinnati, Ohio. It's been quite a while since I've done one of their beers. The vast majority of which we have done have been sours, and today's is no different. The beer in question is Pachycephalosaurus. It's a wild cultured sour ale that's been aged on marionberries. This one clocks in at 9.1% ABV. So, we have a very small bottle here today, and gosh, I can't read. It's too small for me to read the exact how many ounces are in there, but this is one I've been sitting on for just a little while. I did get it from Tavour, and the name Pachycephalosaurus, that is the dinosaur that is kind of on the front here. I know it's probably a little hard to tell, but the significance of that name to this beer is that there were many Pachycephalosaurus fossils found in and around the Ohio River Valley, very much near Cincinnati. So that's kind of their nod to their fossil record in the area where they're situated. And the reason I purchased this was strictly because of the name, because when I was a kid, I think as many kids, you know, I want to be a paleontologist when I grow up, but I was a bit of an oddball. Pachycephalosaurus was my favorite dinosaur, which these are the dinosaurs that had thickened skulls that we presume they used for, you know, defending against predators and, you know, for battling each other. We presume they kind of head-butted stuff. So that's kind of the significance of the name and why I purchased it. But it's been a while since I've had an Urban Artifact beer, so we're going to get this cracked using our nice little sour goblet here, my Delirium Tremens glass that works great for sours. This is obviously quite a lovely beer, very dark red, reddish purple. It is a small bottle. Yes, it does not even halfway fill this goblet. So, gosh, I wish I could read that. Maybe 6 ounces at 6 point something. I think it says 6 point some odd. So regardless, it smells great. I can already get big aromas coming off of it just sitting this far away. This classic sour did not form a head, which is exactly what I want to see. It is indeed a dark kind of purple, almost ruby reddish. Very lovely. Yeah, wow. So you can smell the sour and the tart on the nose, but you can really smell that marionberry. It smells absolutely fantastic. So no surprises here in the aroma, how the head basically didn't form, or visually. So let's just jump right in for a sip. Small sips today. It's a small beer, so let's get right to it. Oh yeah, that's very nice. Big, bold flavor. So it's 9.1% ABV. It's on the higher end for a sour. I would say this feels like a strong medium body. Maybe you would expect it to be a bit heavier. For a standard wild culture sour, I would not. If it were, say, a smoothie style sour, I probably would. But I think this is really kind of top end for the expected ABV range and beer style. It's exactly where I would want to see it to be a top mark body. In terms of the mouthfeel, compared to an average sour with lower ABVs, similar story to the body. It's got the exact right amount of resistance that I would expect. It's not on the low end. It's really nice. So weight and texture, it feels right on the money, top marks in both, 100%. It does not get creamy. It does not get foamy. It does not get silky when you agitate on the palate, but you can feel that resistance there. So yeah, it is a higher ABV sour. It does have a lot more presence to it than, you know, a lower ABV sour would. So in terms of the flavor profile, well, the vast majority of what you get on the nose absolutely is translated into the glass. This does have a bit of a sharpness up front. It is pretty intensely sour and tart. It's got a big, bold flavor. It tastes a little bit like there might be some Brettanomyces in here, but it's not putting any funky overtones or notes or flavors in there. I didn't smell anything that smelled like classic Brettanomyces, kind of tutti fruity aromas on the nose, but in the flavor profile, you get a little bit of it. That being said, it does lean a lot more strongly with a dominant kind of just sharp, sour, and tart versus kind of these typical Brettanomyces characteristics you might find. So in that case, it's a really nice beer. There's really no pulling, no punches, and really what you smell on the glass does translate directly into flavor profile far more than your average sour would. The marionberry on this is also really, really delicious. Comes through very, very clearly. You do get that sour and the tart up front as kind of the main kind of punch right in the face as soon as you swallow. But within a second, the marionberry really starts to blossom up and intensify that flavor. And it just pairs so beautifully in a sour beer. This is a fruit that I've had in many different sours over the years, but it's been quite a while. It's one that I always like. It's a really nice fruit selection. Not dissimilar to kind of accents you might get from raspberries or blackberries, but it's distinctly its own fruit, and it's absolutely delicious. So, I'm going to jump back in for a second sip, let everything re-intensify, pick it apart again, make sure I didn't miss any nuance, then we'll talk about the balance of the finish. Take two. Big, sharp, sour tart. A little bit of a tutti frutti. A little bit of kind of an earthy note to it. I think that is probably the funky notes coming out of the souring, but it doesn't taste funky. It really tastes earthy in this one. Then big burst of marionberry. Big, big, big burst of marionberry. It's very, very nice. It pairs extremely well with this sour and this tart, which pairs naturally a bit to how the fruit presents itself anyway. But it's got a really nice, big, bold, pungent flavor. In terms of the balance, yeah, I mean, look, it's a sour. It's got natural fermentation, spontaneous fermentation from the cultures in the air, and it's got the marionberry added. There's nothing really tricky about this. It's exactly as advertised. So the balance on something like this, really, for my money, it's hard to fault it. It's got a really good amount of marionberry that I can smell and I can taste, and that works perfectly in this sour beer style. I'd say the balance is great. There's nothing I would change about it. In terms of the finish, this one is longer than average. It does have a pretty pungent souring and tart and intensity of the marionberry up front. Once you hit about the 20-second mark, it's kind of plateaued, but it does linger quite a bit. And there is a little bit of a drying effect on the back of the palate. This one's not super aggressive, but you notice it once you get again to right around that 20-30-second mark. That's when kind of the little bit of dryness starts to pop in. On my palate, it's like right at the tip of the tongue and a little bit on the middle back. It's not all over the entire palate, but it does give it this nice crispness as it finishes off. In terms of how it finishes, so it's kind of a slight little bit of that lingering earthiness that I believe is coming out of the natural cultures and a good bit of that marionberry. The sour and the tart gets out of the way before the end of the finish does, but this really does linger quite a bit longer on the palate than your average sour. But again, it's 9.1% ABV, and it is quite a bold pungency of this marionberry flavor up front, and that's where it kind of tails off. I would say right around the minute 15 mark, that's when it's finally out of the way, but that's very, very long for a sour indeed. Guys, in general, this is a really, really great beer. This is one I had set aside. I had been saving for when the timing felt right to me. Today was that day, and this is a really, really good one. I'm going to take my time, sip on this, count my scores. When we come back, we will get this beer ranked from top to bottom. All right, now that we've gotten to enjoy this beer, we're going to get it ranked. This was Urban Artifact Brewing's Pachycephalosaurus, a wild cultured sour ale brewed with marionberries. This one clocked in at 9.1% ABV. Urban Artifact, based in Cincinnati, Ohio. So yeah, guys, a small little bottle here, but it packed big flavor. This was a really, really good sour beer. Urban Artifact, kind of for my money. I've had so many other sours now. They, for me, really seem to be sour specialists, and they do a great job. That's why I constantly grab them when I see a new one pop up on my Tavour. And sure, I got this one because of the name, but it was just as good as any of the other Urban Artifact sours I've had to date. Indeed, this beer did exceptionally well across all categories. Only a single category that did not get a perfect score, so we're just going to jump to that one in question, and that was the finish. So the finish on this beer was definitely well above average, but it wasn't quite as long as some, especially given the ABV range. I think, maybe if they had done any kind of barrel edition or wood finishing or anything like that, it probably would have been top tier. But again, I mean, we're talking about a razor thin margin. It just missed top marks by a hair. I only docked 1 point. The finish gets a 9 out of 10. That does, of course, leave a perfect 10 out of 10 in the remaining 9 categories. That's aroma, taste, body, mouthfeel, head and retention, appearance, balance, my subjective thoughts, and example of style. So the total score on Urban Artifact Brewing's Pachycephalosaurus is a 99 out of 100. Guys, near enough as to call it a perfect sour beer. I really, really like this. It was packed full of flavor. The natural, fermentation that happened in this one didn't lean super heavily in funky overtones, which I like them, but some people find them off-putting. So if you're one of those people, this is one you would definitely enjoy. Marionberry was very bold and pungent and very noticeable. It paired well with this nice sour and tart, really big impact and flavorful, and just a classic well-done sour beer. Guys, I absolutely love this one. If this pops up again on Tavour, definitely grab it. This is one that they put out yearly, so this was, I think, the 2022 release. I would have to double check my receipt. Like I said, I had this one in the beer cellar for a while, but anyway you slice it, absolutely delicious sour. I would recommend this one all day long. Folks, that's today's review. As always, I do sincerely appreciate you tuning in today. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to stay in loop when our videos go live, just turn on your notifications by hitting that bell icon. Until next time, keep it beer, keep it craft. We'll see you on the next one. Cheers.